Good morning, everyone. Maryann here, revealing light, tarot, astrology, and spirituality. How are you this morning, wherever you are in the world when you're watching? A huge shout out to you. Thank you all for supporting my channel, whether it's through likes, comments, subscriptions when you subscribe to the channel, or in any other way you choose to support my work. I say it every time and I mean it. I'm very grateful for your support. Today, I want to look at the eclipse chart. The reason that I'm doing this is because, well, I did vaguely think about doing some astrology, but I was watching Steve Judd, a UK astrologer, do a very brief kind of intro into what the eclipse energies or what the October energies might bring for us. And it was quite worrying to a certain degree. He started his video by saying, look, if you're at all fearful or worried, if you don't understand, how how astrology might unfold, then, if you don't want to hear bad news, then don't watch this video. Click off right now. And straight away I'm thinking, oh, okay. He went on to say that the eclipse and the October energies are explosive, that we should, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but strap in because things are going to get fairly rough. He was talking a lot about Mars opposition to Pluto, which occurs in the middle of the month, and of course Mars is squaring this eclipse on October the 4th. And so straight away I thought, well, I better take a look. I saw in the astrology some of what he was saying, well, all of what he was saying. I also tried to look intuitively at what, astrologically and intuitively at what was the saving grace, if you like, in all of this volatility and all this combustibility, and I was able to find that. So without further ado, let's look at the eclipse. It's occurring now. First of all, I should back up and say that eclipses traditionally throughout history can signify monumental events. They can mark life-changing events. In fact, in history, the sovereign, the king or queen, would talk to his astrologer around the time of the eclipse and say, well, what is this portending for me? So really, they can bring in kings, queens, sovereigns, and so I do go to the UK there. We know that the current King Charles is not in good health, so I'll do that separately. I really want to focus on the Middle East because this is where I think the worry comes for me. This is where I have to dig really deep to understand why this is happening, not just on a geopolitical or even Machiavellian type level. If we look at what this might portend for the US election, if there was an escalation in the Middle East, heaven forbid if Iran, Yemen, and Lebanon combined forces and went on the offensive rather than the defensive, what would occur there? What would that mean for the US and its allies, one of which is Australia? And so all these questions are now going through my mind. But look, let's just look one step at a time at the eclipse chart. So monumental events can occur around eclipse. The eclipse energies will last for 6 months. This eclipse is a new moon solar eclipse in Libra on October the 4th at 10 degrees and 4 minutes. Now, Libra, why Libra? Well, the scales of justice. It is the sign of justice and it's about balancing the scales. The eclipse can highlight division, and we see that in the Middle East and we see that in the US and other areas around the globe. Russia, Ukraine, Austria has a far-right extremist anti-immigration party has just done very well in Austrian elections, and they haven't veered toward the extremist hard right since World War II for obvious reasons. Yet this anti-immigration sentiment is abounding and helping extremists to get elected. So it highlights the division. Libra can highlight division, and we see that in the world currently and in our politics. But Libra strives to find resolution. If you've got a conflict, you bring a Libran in because they can see both sides and they can help bring out the truth. And of course, in doing so, balance the scales. Okay, so new moon solar eclipse. The new moon part of this is fairly significant because new moons are the start of a new cycle. They're a time to plan and a time to act on goals. So in Libra, it's about the we. So if we take politics, if we take geopolitics, if we take global conflicts out of the equation, for us, this will be a time of looking closely at our relationships and balancing those relationships and where we need to negotiate new ways forward. Or alternatively, this can be a stark reminder of our failure to negotiate conflict and what are the consequences of that. And this is what worries me. Our failure to negotiate conflict resolution and what are the consequences of that. Okay, let's go back to politics for a minute, and global conflict. We saw the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu address the UN. Many countries turned their back and walked out of the chamber. Netanyahu was left to address a very sparse UN. There are resolutions now UN resolutions now calling for ceasefires. There was a photo, I think, from Associated Press, I can't remember, but Netanyahu gave the order to bomb Hezbollah, bomb Lebanon, with those 2,000-pound US bombs that take out apartment blocks, and are indiscriminate, don't discriminate between Hezbollah and the civilian living next door. Same modus operandi as we saw in Gaza. He gave that order from the UN building. And so we see here this failure, our collective failure to negotiate conflict resolutions, and what are the consequences of that. I want to say in balance to that there is a huge movement to none of us want war. None of us want this type of escalation. 1 million 1 million people in Lebanon have been made homeless. They have been displaced. 1 million in a fairly I'm not going to say poor country, but Lebanon's economy has been failing for some time. 1 million people. They're moving through now Syria. Where do you think they will go? As I said in my last video, this displacement affects us all. Aside from Lebanon, Netanyahu has now opened up a front, more direct front with Yemen. He's now bombing the Houthis there. And so we see this Lebanon huge mass casualties, bombing in Lebanon, and then we see now the bombing in Yemen. Both Hezbollah and the Houthis have been Hezbollah bombing Israel since Gaza, since October the 7th, 8th, and we have the bombs or the drones that are sent to any ship that the Houthis have been responsible for disrupting Israeli supply there in those straits there. So we now have Iran, of course, there in the background, and now we have Hezbollah, there, Iran's proxy in Lebanon, and now we have the Yemen Houthis being drawn in as well. So all of this has happened over a period. It's not just an overnight thing. This has been going on since October the 7th, and we've all seen that. And yet, the best we could do, I mean, was turn our backs and walk out of an address by Netanyahu. He's wanted on to answer for charges in the international criminal courts, and yet here he was addressing the United Nations. Okay, so diplomacy. What has been the role of diplomacy? Well, unfortunately, it has been unsuccessful, and we are now facing the consequences of that. So it's the Middle East, I think, that is the big picture for us in this eclipse. There are both opportunities. This is the salve here that might help. There are both opportunities for learning in this eclipse, and there is also a reflection of the complexity of this time. The greater the complexity, the greater the challenge, the greater the learning, the greater restructuring that needs to be done. And so we see this in this eclipse chart, both the Middle East situation and potentially also the Russian president threatening to use nuclear weapons should Ukraine be allowed to use the West's long-range missiles on Russia. He's threatened a nuclear response. So let's look at the more troubling aspects of this eclipse, and then don't worry, I'm not going to leave you panicking. We'll look at the good stuff there, because there is some good stuff and some stuff that might give us hope that maybe, just maybe, a coalition of Western governments might be able to sort through this combustibility in the Middle East and try and stop a fully fledged roaring fire from taking place. All right, let's look at the eclipse chart. Where do I want to start? Okay, I'd have to start with the most obvious. We see Mars over here in Cancer, and it is making squaring the eclipse here. Here is the eclipse, a new moon solar eclipse. We've got the moon, the sun, 10 degrees and 4 minutes. I think I'm a second out there, but anyway. And we have Mercury conjunct here at 11 degrees here. And also the South Node, which is retrograde at the moment, at 6 degrees. So we have this conglomeration of planets and the nodes of the moon here, and they're squaring Mars in Cancer. So I want to also say that the Mercury here being so close to the sun is what is known as combustible. Now, what that means. Now, Mercury, of course, is the planet of communication. It rules Libra and Virgo, but it is combustible here, and that means that it is so close to the sun that it's going to be losing its efficacy. It's actually disappearing, and it's almost neutralized in that position. Again, Mercury, communication, and that is a worrying aspect of this eclipse when we see that, Mercury, the planet of communication, in thoughts, inner and outer communication, and Libra, of course, can be the diplomat and the peacemaker, but here it is simply lost in the sun and the eclipse's energy. Okay, and so we'll throw some cards on this as well, but that's worrying for me, because it means that this could unfold so quickly that there isn't the time to even gather diplomatic solutions. Okay, the South Node is obviously conjunct here, and the South Node is what we have learnt, or what we have failed to learn, because it's retrograde, it's going back over old ground. It's not a leap to see that diplomacy has failed in the Middle East, and that war perhaps seems imminent. I think I predicted that Lebanon would escalate. Unfortunately, my first prediction was it wasn't inevitable. And then I didn't say it wouldn't start. I just said it wasn't inevitable. So there was a chance that diplomacy might be able to prevent this. But then I looked at it a few days later with a growing sense of disappointment. I'm just going to say, I use the word cynicism, but disappointment. And I could see then that it was going to escalate. And so uh, I also want to say that the US Secretary of State is practically pleading with Netanyahu to de-escalate. These are all worrying signs as we see the opposite occur. We see the escalation. Okay, so unfortunately, with the full blocks being taken out by these massive bombs and displacement of citizens of Lebanese people, and the images that are now coming out of Lebanon, it just is like a bad rerun of what we saw initially in Gaza. Um, all right, so Mars squaring. Let's get back to Mars squaring here. So Mercury is combustible, losing its energy. Mars is squaring the eclipse up here. Mars is going back to Mars in Cancer. It's a very volatile. It's in its detriment. It's not comfortable. Mars is not comfortable in Cancer. Cancer is the cardinal water sign, and of course Mars is the fire ruler of Aries. And of course, we have Mars being the planet of assertion and action and drive, which are not necessarily bad things. And in Cancer, that can be fighting for those causes that you feel strongly about. We see some of the benefits of Mars in Cancer in the US at the moment with the movement around the presidential candidate, Vice President of the US, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. But it can also be about escalation of conflicts. Mars erupting in Cancer, feeling, becoming angry, frustrated, losing, prone to taking risks because of that frustration. And we can see how that might be playing out in the Middle East and particularly for Netanyahu. With this square, it can be difficult to draw the line between assertion, which is, it's about drive, and aggression, which is about fighting and taking risks. So again, what risk is Netanyahu's aggression being created for all of us? And what is Iran's position there, given its proxies are under attack? Will Israel fight on multiple fronts? This is the question. And who in the world will be called upon to help Israel if full-scale war does break out between Iran, Yemen, and perhaps even other players? Turkey's President Erdogan is making extremely worrying overtones around war with Israel. So let's also look at Mars here. So for those that are new to astrology, red lines are oppositions and squares. They denote the challenging energy. Squares are conflicts and squaring off, if you like, challenging energies. Oppositions are two energies pulling away from one another, envisaging like a tug of war effect. Well, Mars in Cancer is opposite the lot of fortune here in Capricorn. And we see Pluto in Capricorn, retrograde Pluto here in Capricorn as well. And so this can indicate that the kind of events that we're seeing, whether that's in the Middle East or in the volatility of the US Congress, Ukraine and Russia, it is challenging our resilience and our economic stability. In Washington, D.C., where this chart is cast, it tells us about the continuing theatrics and divisions, the partisanships, the demonizing people, and those kinds of energies destabilize and create volatility. Now, imagine if there had been a shutdown. I'm just off the Middle East for a minute. A shutdown of the US government at a time when the hurricane struck. That I think there's 90 people dead and it's hit places, states like North Carolina, very, very hard. Imagine if there had been a government shutdown. I also want to say that Project 2025 calls for the abolition of any federal assistance for natural disasters. Okay. So you see that this kind of energy now has an economic consequence, has a real consequence to people's lives. Okay, so Mars is also square, coming back to Mars, the action seems to be around Mars in Cancer is also square Chiron down here in Aries. Have Chiron's the wounded healer, and I have to ask ourselves, have we learned the lesson? Fiery Mars debilitated in Cancer, the cardinal water sign. We can also become prone to our fears. And we can become frustrated, as I said, and give in to those irrational fears. And when we're in that position, we are more prone to fasten on to conspiracy theories, to any kind of fear mongering. And this is what certain politicians will take advantage of. I do want to come over here to Uranus and Algol. Again, Uranus being retrograde, both now coming into an exact conjunction. And we know that when that occurred earlier this year, we had the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania on Trump. And you know, we can see these kind of very, very diabolical, volatile energies playing out in whatever situation it is around the world. Now, it is actually square. I want to point this out. It's square the vertex of the chart here. The vertex is known as a point of destiny in any astrological chart, destiny, fate, things that were, you know, destined to happen. And we've got Uranus and Algol off with the head. It's strife, and we've got that squaring the vertex there of the chart. So is this strife? Is this Middle Eastern conflict? Are these divisions in the US? Whatever the situation is, are these I guess, is there a destiny at play here? And, you know, with this sudden disruption, sudden change, what is it that we do have to learn? And now I want to get to the encouraging parts of this chart. So before I leave the squares, before I move away from the Mars in Cancer energy that's been causing us so much volatility, I do want to say that around mid-month, Mars will become opposite Pluto. And that again, we should hold on to, we should strap in, because Pluto in Capricorn was always going to go back over this old ground. If we fail to negotiate successfully through our conflicts in a way that's acceptable to us all, we will have to revisit them until we get it right. Okay, so that's the part Steve Judd is probably a little bit worried about. Let's have a look at the encouraging aspects. So I come down here to Saturn. Saturn is known as Lord Karma, planet of boundaries, lessons, and putting in the work. It's still in watery Pisces here, but there is a grand trine to Mars in Cancer and Venus in Scorpio. And if we look hard enough, we can see the momentum in many places across the world, particularly in the US. The Republicans backing Vice President Harris, the current Democratic Party presidential candidate, is unprecedented. Is unprecedented. You want to see unity, then look there. It basically is the nemesis is coming together to defeat a perceived common threat. And we know what that perceived common threat is. Pluto in this chart is also trining the unpredictable Uranus and Algol. While events might be challenging and volatile, there is this truth emerging, because that's what Pluto does. It brings from the underworld or the underbelly to the surface, and there is an emerging truth. And when that happens, when it's recognized fully, it can open a pathway forward. So I do have faith in terms of the Middle East that the United Nations, that the coalition of governments, you need to look at France to see how I mean, its current president, Macron, is absolutely furious. I haven't heard its foreign minister speak in the way that it did. Furious with the risks that Netanyahu is taking at this time. So this truth is emerging. What is actually going on here? What is actually occurring beyond Israel's right to defend itself? Are we looking at Israel wanting to expand its territory? Is that what we're looking at? And this is one of the ways to do it. Are we looking at nefarious, I guess, interactions between Netanyahu and the Trump political campaign to escalate or prolong conflict in the Middle East, to again drive people away from the current US government? So Pluto is trining unpredictable Uranus, and of course algol, discord, strife. And so this truth can give us a pathway forward. It is also sextiling. Pluto is also sextiling Neptune in Pisces. Now, Neptune in Pisces can be unstable energy. It's about something coming into form. And so this again gives me heart, adding to the power of Pluto to reveal that underbelly, to reveal the deceit. We all belong to this time, and I know some of you won't even watch this video, and that's okay. But we all have a part to play in this, and we have an opportunity to be part of the change that takes us forward, not backward. Chiron, the wounded healer, is making a trine to the vertex here. And of course, so is Eris. Eris is the goddess, I guess, was associated with again the battlefield, discord, strife. She would go onto the battlefield and she would take no prisoners. But there's a trine here to the vertex, the point of destiny and fate. So opportunities may present themselves for conflict resolution, and they might arrive unexpectedly. So let's hope that there will be this boldness for actors, the UN and others, to step forward boldly on the world stage and find those peaceful solutions that perhaps does not involve war and escalation of war. I do want to say Pallas Athena, who provided wise counsel to those in power, again another goddess, is trining the North Node. Now, the North Node is what is coming into actuality in the present and the future. The South Node is the past, where we've been, and the North Node is where we're going to. And in Sagittarius, future-oriented sign, and with high ideals. And so this trine shows that there's an opportunity for wise counsel to enter into this conflict and perhaps take us forward, and not take us away from full-scale war and not into it. And the North Node is sextiling. Sorry, the North Node is okay. Let me see. Yes, Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena here is sextiling the eclipse here. And so, yeah, that's why I'm heartened that there might be some breakthroughs here. So let's just stop the share. You can see both the volatility of the eclipse and indeed of the month ahead, because this eclipse energy lasts for 6 months, and we've got Pluto and Mars in the equation there, coming into an opposition in mid-October. But this eclipse chart is what we would expect at this time, and the forces are gathering that would appearingly take us toward war, cause further suffering for innocent people. At the same time, we're seeing the truth of the futility and the arrogance that such actions cause. The arrogance of such actions seems to be revealed to us. Equally, we need to be bold, and we need to gather that wisdom to counteract the shadow of this darkness. And I do agree with astrologer Steve Judd. This is a extremely volatile time for us. But we need that wisdom, and we need to be bold to counteract this darkness, and ushering in decisive and united action. And we want to evolve. We don't want to devolve. And so this eclipse is perhaps a mirror of what is taking place across the world at this time. And we see here a stunning movement occurring in the US, which is heartening. And we heard the presidential candidate Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, state, which is now a new word that the current Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is using in regards to this conflict in the Middle East. Israel has a right to defend itself. How it does so matters. How it does so matters. And that is the linchpin upon which the boldness and decisive action may be taken to try and rein in Netanyahu. We could actually see, rather than almost pleading with him to stop it, to stop putting us all in so much peril, to stop taking the risk, to come back from that Mars in Cancer explosive energy, we may see some control beyond just platitudes being exerted upon him. 1 million now displaced in Lebanon, double that in Gaza, massive loss of life, escalation opened up on multiple fronts, and all of us waiting to see what Iran will do. Okay, so I'm going to just pull on that, and then we'll move to the US. And I know this reading is fairly lengthy. It is what it is. These are critical times, and I do what I must do. All right. Okay, so Iran we're all just waiting. We're waiting for Iran to come in now. Okay, so it seems like it's a given. So will Iran show its hand? Will Iran join with Lebanon and Yemen and anyone else, any other players? Syria, I don't know about Syria, but certainly Turkey is not happy because these people move up through Syria and Turkey that are displaced. And Turkey has its own stoush with Israel as well. So will Iran join in this? I don't know what to call it. We're very close to calling it a war. At the moment, the certain sides are being pounded, and it seems like it's all Israel's way, but we'll see. Will Iran join with its partners to wage war on Israel? And is this imminent? Will Iran join and wage war on Israel? And is this imminent? It's like I'm waiting for like the bomb to go off. There's something around an underground that they may have been working on. It's an underground. It's like a pipeline, and it's got it's like something. Oh, I wish I could draw it for you. It's like it's not the weather vane, but it's that kind of action. It's something spinning around. Now we know Russia's just given Iran its nuclear technology, but I don't think they have nuclear capability yet. Will Iran join in? There's something around underground pipelines. All right. Maybe they'll bomb infrastructure in Israel. Will Iran join in and wage war on Israel? So we get loans and debts, help being received, and we get wish fulfillment. Okay, so it seems like seems like this pounding of Lebanon and Yemen and Gaza is almost something that Iran cannot ignore. And there we have the foundation of the reading. In the past we have the Ten of Pentacles. That's legacy, history, again, all wars one way or another about land, territory, and money. Now we have holding back here. That's in the sky, so it's nothing is fated. Now we have the Sun card, and so I see there's a strike. There's going to be a strike by Iran reasonably soon. Everything is in the background. This is what worries me. It's like Iran's been silent. And then we get Russia, the Empress card here. Russia is allied with Iran. And then we mustn't forget China's position as well. And so we have the Ace of Wands and the hopes and fears, planning and strategizing. We get the Hanged Man, can be pausing or suspending something. It's also looking at something in a different way. And then we get the Hope card. These are good cards that, and consistency and stability. What worries me is this, not quite yet. Perhaps there's a time that that they may remain quiet. But of course, we get the Tower card and we get the Seven of Swords. So I'm going to draw a clarifier on this Hanged Man. This is sacrifice. Sacrifice, pausing something, suspending. Why is the Hanged? And then we get hope. Pausing all hope. Suspending all hope. What was after the Knight of Pentacles? Retreat. Okay, so let's have a look. What is this Hangman here for? That High Priestess turned up. Why is this Hangman here? Okay, so we get the Five of Swords and Justice. Okay, so it's a question of time. They are waiting and marking their time, but I see they may be sabotaging something, and this could be, and then we get new starts. This could be, yeah, there's the Knight there. This could be attacks on Israel's infrastructure. Could be clandestine. That's what it is. Clandestine attacks. Denying all responsibility. I don't know what underground pipelines Israel has, but it seems I'm just getting a draw there. So I don't see full-scale escalation yet. There's still a chance for the world to do something a little bit more concrete than say, please, Mr. Netanyahu, please, Prime Minister Netanyahu, please don't be so aggressive. There's ways we can do this other than bombing the hell out of Lebanon and Gaza and whoever else. There's ways we can do this. We can still get the outcomes you want. We just don't have to do it the way you're doing it. Please, Mr. Netanyahu. All right. Will there be an all-out war in the Middle East? We've done that. All right, where do I want to go? All right. Let's go to the ex-US president who seems to have his fingers in the Middle East as well. He has the other side of this eclipse is the justice aspect of it in Libra. And we have around mid-October, we have the huge file that Jack Smith, special prosecutor, has. And of course, they're currently moving through the redactions. There'll be all sorts of evidence we haven't seen in there. I'm just going to say, without pulling cards on it, we will see who's flipped. I'll perhaps ask that question if I feel that's where we should go. But I am just getting a pull to Mike Flynn. Has Mike Flynn flipped? All right. I'm getting somebody touching my hair. So we will ask that question. All right. Will we see who's flipped on Trump in that, or it would be alluded to, wouldn't it? They wouldn't give the name. So let's just see if my intuition's right. Has Mike Flynn flipped on Trump? Strength card, the 10 of Pentacles. We get withholding information, Queen of Wands in the past, a woman. We get lies and deceit, and we get stepping back, Four of Swords and the Sun. You know, that's a kind of a retreat, holding up the white flag. It's possible he may have, and it is around, there'll be evidence in there, whether it's from Mike Flynn or others who have flipped, that Trump knew. He knew the election wasn't stolen. He knew that it was a lie, and there'll be multiple people that will say that. And this was concocted to try and halt the certification of votes, bring forward false electors, slate of electors, and turn the election toward him. Will we see multiple people flipping on Trump in this evidence? Queen of Cups, there's a woman there. And we get just straight out yes cards, and a lot of them. This is one of the highlights, if you like, of this brief. There are multiple people that have flipped on him. Multiple people that have flipped on him. Yeah, and there's something around the money aspect here, and this is one of the questions I pose, that we may see Russia's involvement via backdoor funding. And again, we know there's precedence for this. Russia funded a American US content creation agency who provided talking points to right-wing podcasters. We know that that's what Russia was indirectly paying them. And so we'll see something like that. And we'll see people flipping there as well. The whole scheme is revealed. So let's go to Trump's watches that he has on sale there before we do one last reading on JD Vance. Is Trump money laundering through his watches? It's very Midas Touch has been covering this. Thankfully, I don't see legacy media covering it. They seem to have lost their grasp on what actually is news and what is not. Let's have a look. Is Trump money laundering? Is Trump laundering these through the sale of these watches, or bogus sale of these watches? They're $100,000 a piece, can be bought with cryptocurrency, untraceable, yada yada. The stories are out there. Go to Midas Touch for more information. So let's see, is Trump money laundering through these watches? It's inevitable. And he's going to get pinged for it. They're on to it. It's like you could even see some charges before the election. There's a deal here. Oh my goodness me. Temperance, moderation, the past. There he is. 10 of Pentacles. Some have actually said, is Trump broke? The outcome card is the 9 of Pentacles in terms of this question. Overseas, foreign way of basically getting out of trouble. Is he money laundering? Yes. Is he broke? Or is he short of a quid? Yes. The Republican Party has run out of money. A lot of down ballot races aren't being funded. They've closed up a lot of their election campaigning infrastructure. There's an issue with money. Trump is selling these watches to his overseas, those who would. He's getting around election donation laws by doing this, and he could be charged for it. All right, one last read. I'll change decks. So I'm using the Rider-Waite both times to clarify. I'm now moving to the Morgan Greer. I wanted one last question before we go. JD Vance, it's been on my mind for a long time. It's almost he just says the most outrageous things, the most offensive things. Looks like he and Trump will be charged through the Haitians bringing those charges forward, and they could face charges. They could be arrested on these charges. I've looked at that and I said some of these charges will stick, not all, but some will. I also want to say that some of you have said, oh, but the Haitians in Springfield aren't, they're not naturalized citizens. Well, you don't know that. 68% of Haitians living in America are naturalized citizens. So when I say they're legal citizens, I mean it. They've been going to Springfield since 2017. Now, 2014, you know the backstory with Springfield. It hit hard economic times. It was proactive local government, and the governor of the state enticed manufacturers back to Springfield, and Haitians came as a ready-made workforce. Some of these Haitians would have been citizens, legal citizens. Others are here on Biden's temporary working, it's a pathway to citizenship. Biden only started that in January 2023. And so you'll see that this hasn't just been a huge exodus, a huge, whatever the word is. Haitians haven't been coming to Springfield en masse all of a sudden in 6 months. They've been coming there since 2017. And what does it matter anyway? But it seemed to surprise some of my viewers that, yes, a portion, a percentage, some of these Haitians in Springfield are naturalized citizens. Probably the one that's been running the restaurant there for all those years. All right. It's ironic, isn't it? All right, let's get to Vance. I just want to know what motivates JD Vance. He couldn't be any worse if he tried. Is it just this lack of integrity that motivates him? Is it that, or, what is it? Power? What motivates JD Vance? What motivates JD Vance? What motivates? He's like a kid in a lolly shop. It's like he's choosing. Okay, all right. What motivates JD Vance? He sees it as his big opportunity, the Queen of Swords and Death. Logic and death. Death to logic. Is this an experiment? Let's see how far we can push this envelope. Wish fulfillment. His kid in the candy shop. His go at power. Getting out of troubled waters, that's in the past. So he was in trouble, perhaps in his early life. He sees it as his pathway to power. The Page of Swords, and he'll do whatever he needs to do to get there. The Hermit, he's currently the least popular vice presidential pick in history. Isolation, the Hermit. We get the Ten of Cups, family, the voters. And then we get the Moon, the volatility. It's his role. I think one of his role is to create volatility in this election, to again, this instability that I've been talking about, something coming to fruition in time, in the hopes and fears. And then we get the Nine of Swords, anxiety, restricted by fear. And then we get boldness. Okay, so I know what it is. He wants to create, he's working with other nefarious, yes, I saw the orbs. He's working with others to create as much fear through misleading, misinformation, disinformation, gaslighting, lying, create as much fear in the voter as he possibly can. And then he comes in with all the answers, and he's not alone in doing this. Will he be successful? The Four of Swords, wounded in battle, retreat. That's what's happening with him. They're very arrogant that they think that they can do this. The Tower is upon him. We get the Hanged Man, sacrifice, and we get the Queen of Cups, something being let out of the bag, the women. And we get the Seven of Cups, illusion and delusion. Will his strategy work? Doesn't appear to be working. just look at the poles. All right, that's a big reading. It all seems to mirror this eclipse energy with volatility, strife, escalation, and balancing out that. Thankfully, this eclipse is in Libra, the sign of balance, justice, revelation of truth in the tarot. The justice card holds the Ace of Swords, complete, utter clarity. With that, we see some encouraging momentum to try and counteract again this darkness, this obscuring of the truth. We see huge energies that are trying to counteract that, and I tend to put my faith in the divinity of the universe for our evolution, not our devolution. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and bye for now.